But, like, that was really, like, I didn't know anything about, like, paid ads or, like,
Mhm.
SEO or, really
Yep.
anything about, dealing with Google and their analytics and pixels and all the things, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's what I've been catching up on for the last year because that's really important too, right? I think
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what most entrepreneurs focus on because they get into business and
Mhm.
they're like, I want more sales. So like marketing, sales, marketing, sales. But
Correct.
nobody goes, I want to take a finance class. Nobody ever said that, right?
No, no, nobody says, I'm gonna learn how to read these financial reports.
Never. Like, I guarantee that like 90% of businesses that have been in business for 2 years couldn't explain to me a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet. Like, I can almost
Yeah.
guarantee it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I want to change that. So,
Mhm.
I'm hoping like my job in corporate America is literally to support executives that don't think of themselves as like finance people. Like,
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time with attorneys and
Mhm.
they'll write stuff and talk about stuff all day, but they're scared of numbers. They don't think they're finance people. And
Yep.
if you want their cooperation, you have to explain to them in a way that they can understand without talking down to them, without offending
Yeah.
them, right? But you have to like turn it in from finance jargon into English. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, well, why don't I teach entrepreneurs finance in English and see if I can help some people?
Yeah. And
So
I'm
that's
sure,
what we're
I'm
gonna
sure you will. I'm sure you will.
what I'm finding through this process, I'm finding that companies that are like around about like 700, 800,000 to like 1.5 million, maybe they haven't found anybody yet, or they just found someone.
Yep.
But a lot of times that someone is going away, doing all the stuff and not doing enough teaching with it. So that's been my job for a long time. So I'm gonna see what I can come up with to try to turn that around because I think
Yeah.
that 95% of small businesses don't have to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, correct. If they just start with the right systems in place, start with a good financial foundation, and get the right people on your team, and little by little, you do have to learn kind of all those areas. You don't have to do all of them, but certainly
Right.
in the beginning, you have to have an understanding of how certain things work. I even tell my clients a lot too, where they're like, I don't want anything to do with it. And I'm like, I understand and I will take care of it for you, but you have to understand it because no person is perfect. Anyone can make a mistake. We're just
Right.
a human, so we can easily make a mistake. We can fix
Yes.
it, but you want to know. And this is how, like, I had a conversation with someone about, they're like, how do celebrities get bamboozled? Because they don't look at anything.
They
They're not,
don't know either. They
they
hire
don't know
somebody and say,
anything.
I don't want to look at anything. And a
Yeah, they don't know
scammer will
anything.
be
It's like, oh,
like,
I have a guy. And I'm like, yeah, that's
right,
great, but you have to trust the guy and you still need to have an understanding. You don't have to do the
right.
day-to-day work. You don't have to be in the weeds, but you have to understand how to spot when things don't look right,
Because
you
you
know?
can't hire someone, right? Like you also can't hire someone properly. Sometimes you'll get lucky and find somebody who cares
Yeah.
about you and is trustworthy, but yeah, you have no like BS meter if you don't
Yeah.
know
If you don't
anything
know
about the top.
really, yeah. And that's like even for myself in different things where I try to outsource, I'm I'm always like, okay, I need to learn a little bit about this because how do I know that they're a good person in what they're doing? Because anyone can say, oh, I do this, this, and that, and da 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 da, but that doesn't mean you do it well. So
Correct.
I need to create those like BS meters for like various things that I'm, gonna
Yeah.
outsource on. And the same thing goes for when you hire like a CPA or a bookkeeper or any kind of like money person. You wanna like, and we talk about it in the blocks, like what's their social proof, right? How many people are they
Yes.
servicing? What do their reviews look like? And know
Right.
some kind of questions to ask so that you can tell like this person knows what they're talking about.
So that's like if folks are watching out there and they don't know what to ask, like what are like the top 3 questions you would want someone to ask when they're hiring a CPA or a bookkeeping firm?
I think for I would say like a CPA, you want to make sure that I think one of the things I find they're a very like I don't know if I'm using the right words, like conservative CPAs and liberal CPAs, where I think you definitely want a CPA that is trying to help you save in taxes. And that might kind of fall into more of tax planning, but I recently came across a client and the CP, like they were just an LLC, and but they were making almost 7 figures and they were still an LLC. And like instantly I'm like, why are you not an S corp? Oh, my CPA said it wouldn't really help me. And so
No,
I
that's
think,
the CPA doesn't know how to deal with the S corp. That's why.
yeah, and so I think I'm off the spot. I'm trying to think of what are good questions. I think, getting a clear, like, what are the services that you do provide? How are you going to help me save taxes, right? And so have them give you some examples. And so if they can't really come up with any examples of how they're going to save you in taxes per se, maybe that person's not the right fit. Like one of the things you can do is if you have
Yes.
children, you can put your children on payroll, and that's a
Yes.
huge tax savings. If your CPA never mentions that, that might be a red flag that, they're not going to save you the most money. And I
Yeah.
think, for a bookkeeper might be a little hard, but like even how many clients do you have? How long have you been doing this? Do you have any certifications? A lot of bookkeepers are just, they might like QuickBooks, for example, you can get a QuickBooks online certification, but
Yeah.
they may have never worked like in any
Right.
kind of like corporate or arena where they've done it for another company. And that doesn't mean that that person can't be great, but it helps when they've, it's not that they just became a bookkeeper and started their own business, but they have that background knowledge where they've worked for different types of companies, for different
Exactly.
organizations. And so I think it's not typical that clients will say, "What's your experience?" Because it doesn't
Right.
typically come across like an interview, but it's not a
Yeah.
bad thing to know,
Not a bad
okay,
thing. And it
yeah,
is an interview. When you're hiring someone, that person's part of your team.
yes, yes, yeah,
And, you need to be able to rely on them to cover you for the things that you don't know,
yep, yep. And so
period.
you have to
And
test
if,
that knowledge a little, for sure.
yeah, and if you are not, if you're not somebody who can like even do their own, individual taxes and you started a business, please, please, please go find someone that can help you and go get some kind of
Ahead of
business
time.
formation done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk about business formations a little bit for me?
Yeah, so I think this is again another like kind of misconception or people get confused is where, should I be a sole proprietor? Should I be a LLC? Should I be an S corp or what should I be? And so typically, so there's like several different things you can do. Typically, you start off, one thing is you should always start as an LLC because the LLC basically just protects your personal assets from the business. Even if you're not making a lot of money, it's worth it just to be safe. And so, but from a tax standpoint, what people don't realize is an LLC is the same kind of structure as a sole proprietor. You're still taxed on a Schedule C, which goes on your personal tax return, whether you're a sole proprietor or an LLC. What then tends to happen next is, if your business is starting to make a profit, and, this number varies, but maybe 60, 70K profit, that's when you're starting
Yeah.
to look into an S corp. And
Yeah.
you don't become an S corp, you're an LLC taxed as an S corp. And
I
that,
see. Okay.
yeah, and so that's going to start putting you into more tax saving strategies. Again, the CPA you're interviewing never mentions this, might be a red flag because
If
what
you
happens.
don't hear them say the term LLC or S corp, and especially S corp, because if they're not talking
Yeah,
about an S corp, you can't scale with them.
yeah,
You can start
absolutely.
with them as an LLC or a sole proprietorship, but guys, don't do the sole proprietorship. Let me tell you what that means first. A sole proprietorship is if I make a batch of lemonade and go stand on the corner today and sell lemonade. I am the business is me. I didn't
Sure.
talk to the state. I didn't register with anyone. I didn't pay any fees. It's just I started selling something, and you can do that all day, every day. Anybody can do that.
Yeah,
However, if if your lemonade makes somebody sick, then your customer can sue you because you are the business and the business is you. So
correct.
she's telling you to at least go open up an LLC, which means limited liability corporation. And that means that if somebody gets sick from your lemonade, they have to sue your LLC, not you. Now you're two distinct entities. And it helps
Correct.
protect you. And get insurance, for the love of God,
Oh,
get
yes, yes,
insurance.
yes. Everyone I encounter I'm like, did you have insurance? Whatever your business is, you need some type of insurance and you might not know which. And so again,
Right.
another thing, jumping into entrepreneurship, you need insurance. You need to
Yeah.
figure out what type of insurance you might need. And so that's for
Yes.
sure. And you want to, and again, setting your business up with that strong foundation,
Yeah.
making sure you're at least an LLC so your personal assets are protected, making sure you have insurance because if you do get sued, you want to be covered in that realm as well.
Yep. Good. So tell them more about, like, I'm so glad. So we had another tax expert on. She's so amazing, but I think we were just I didn't grill her like I should have. And then when I got on the phone, I'm like, man, I should have asked her to tell the people about the things, because I don't want to just sit here and be like, a sole proprietorship is this. So
Yeah.
tell them about the benefits of an S corp, some things that they can do when start becoming taxed as an S corp.
Yeah, so just I'm not a tax expert, but I definitely have some tips on, the benefits of an S corp. So what happens when you become an S corp, you are required to put yourself on payroll and take a reasonable salary. Now, the reason you're going to do this is because when you're an S corp, you now will get a salary which you're going to pay self-employment taxes on, but the remainder of that profit, you're not going to pay self-employment taxes on. So kind of the easiest way is to explain it is that when you become an S corp, you're basically saving that self-employment tax of like 15.3%. And so that's the biggest thing. When you're just an LLC, if your profit was 50K, you are taxed self-employment
All of it.
15.3 on 50K. Now, if your profit's 100K and you're an S corp, you're probably going to take, say, 50 grand in salary, which is going to be 50 grand at the 15.3, but that remaining 50 grand is considered a distribution and it's not taxed at that 15.3%.
And 50, I mean, think about it. Like, if
The
you
more
get to
you
the
make,
point,
how thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars you're going to save.
if you can get the point where you're making $1 million, you're saving yourself $150,000. Like,
Yeah.
it's not small change, but even if you make $100,000, you're saving
It's
yourself
still
what,
few.
$15,000?
Yeah,
A
yeah. And
lot.
that's a
That's a
big difference.
car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's something you can invest in your business. It might be you can hire someone part-time, you can start to outsource something that definitely will pay for a bookkeeper
Oh
or
yeah.
probably like a social media manager. Like it's going to pay for something to take off of your plate, which then helps you to continue to scale your business.
Exactly. 100%. Thank you. That was awesome. What about mileage?